Now kicking things off, I'll be talking about the debut album from New Bedford underground dance musical group WAMPTRONICA called The Session. Now the name WAMPTRONICA is a portmanteau of the electronica musical genre and the Mashpee Wampanoag, a tribal nation of which the group's lead singer slash producer Walim the Funky Professor, production team the Zig 808, and saxophonist slash percussionist Asa Peters belong to. And on a side note, its other member, EDM producer Casey Figueroa, is Apache. It also serves as an expansion of Walim's 2021 debut record, POLYMATH'S Grotto, which featured production from the Zig 808 and the Sagamore Jazz Crew. During Walim's spoken word tribute to the Bronx music scene that encompasses a Bronx boheme, the opening track to POLYMATH'S Grotto, he says, "Imagine coming from a place that taught the whole world how to make something out of nothing. It's only nothing if you weren't paying attention, because you can't make something from nothing simply because nothing doesn't exist." And it's this perspective that drives the session, as WAMPTRONICA creates organic rhythms and grooves out of the foundations and subgenres of jazz, R&B, and house. Though it's easy to classify the session as garage house, thanks to its early 90s throwback piano riffs and R&B / gospel style vocals from Walim, its intention is not to be placed within a certain musical category. Much to my surprise, the songs themselves feel like jazz improvisations, or, bringing it back to the Bronx, MCing and rap ciphers, where the artists dictate how long the vibe they cultivated should go on for. And in the case of this album, we're treated to 6 tracks within a 7 to 9 minute time frame that may not appeal to the time-centric music consumer who likes their songs under a 3-minute runtime, no offense, but is sure to please listeners looking for non-stop musical vibes. The session begins with its lead single, Paradise Over Peace, a remixed and slightly shortened version of the track of the same name present on POLYMATH'S Grotto. Over a breezy, mid-tempo mix of bass guitar, house-style kick drums, and hand claps, Walim delivers these simple, sincere lyrics centered on the satisfaction he feels with his significant other. Despite the sunny disposition of this track, he wisely informs the listener that even though he's content with his partner, the relationship itself isn't pitch perfect. This leads to one of the album's catchiest hooks, "I Choose Paradise Over Peace." There's quite a number of ways you can interpret that line, but the message I got from it was that peace is self-attainable. But when it comes to seeking the joy and beauty life has to offer, i.e. paradise, these experiences are even more worthwhile when in the company of a loved one. And even with its near 8-minute runtime, this track maintains its unapologetically upbeat vibe without feeling dull or contrived. Up next is Just Is, a remake of the Grammy-nominated single of the same name from soul/funk/Afrobeat band the Groove-A-Lottos. This new version is arguably the better of the two, thanks largely to the updating of the instrumentation from a smooth 70s soul aesthetic to a bouncy, house-inspired sound with a dash of late 70s disco. Compared to Paradise Over Peace, Walim presents a significantly nuanced take on relationships by describing one involving him and a former love interest that unfortunately fizzled out due to the varying expectations they had going into it and their respective baggage that inevitably would have been addressed. He sums up the fondness they still have for each other, even though they can't be together, on the hook. Not everything needs words, cause it just is. And like Paradise Over Peace, Walim shows off some fantastic scatting on this track. No, I'm not an expert when it comes to scatting, but I know great scatting when I hear it. And Walim's work on the first 2 tracks of this album are no exception. We then get Handsome, the album's second single and longest song, clocking in at 8 minutes and 50 seconds. This is the most traditional sounding house track on the record, with a sensual, nocturnal dance pop instrumental, with the only element of jazz being an occasional vibraphone melody. It's also a lyrically stripped back sex jam, relying on 2 repeated lines and a repeated couplet to drive its message home. The truly eyebrow-raising line is unequivocally, "I eat my cheesecake in the dark." And if it's still unclear of its connotation by the song's conclusion, I encourage you to look out for said cheesecake in the official music video. Though Handsome as a whole succeeds as a dance floor to bedroom mood setter, I felt that it lacked a proper song structure like the preceding tracks. And no, I'm not asking for an explanation on why cheesecake should be consumed in the dark, or how the combination of sativa and tequila can make someone handsome. But given how long this track is, it would have greatly benefited with at least one verse, braggadocious and or sexually suggestive, given the song's subject matter, of course. The second half of the session kicks off with The Abyss, which interestingly is the most gospel influence out of all the songs on this record, with its sermon-like instrumental presentation of piano, drums, hand claps, and sax, and Wallem's lyrical themes and delivery. By interpolating a famous Friedrich Nietzsche quote in his chorus, which is, "If you gaze for too long into an abyss, the abyss gazes also into you," Wallem explores the many facets of life that help shape our respective individuality. It's certainly the most unconventional song on the album, as it treats us to philosophy and self-reflection amidst a head-nodding and danceable beat. Thematically, the album's penultimate track, Not Going Out, Feel the Vibe, feels like a heartfelt tribute to 90s R&B/hip-hop songs designed to get the listener to either attend or host a Friday night party, like the timeless "This Is How We Do It" from Montel Jordan and "Hey Mr. DJ" from Johnny. The premise is simple. It's a rainy Friday night and Wallem feels like staying home. Lucky for him, his friends show up with food and drinks, and lucky for them, he has a turntable. Boom! A party commences. This is easily the best song on the album, and the most fun, thanks to Wallem's impassioned vocal performance and vibrant mix of hand drums, house kick drums, piano, hand claps, and vibraphone. And speaking of vibe, it is definitely felt on this track, to the point that the lyric, "Party in my living room Friday night" will be stuck in your head long after the song ends. Like POLYMATH'S Grotto, the session ends on a strong note with an instrumental-only track. Sagamore, clearly centered on the Sagamore Jazz Crew, incorporates many of the genre elements included on the album's preceding songs. However, this is the first track to include a wind instrument, and thanks to its smooth, playful, and going back to jazz for a bit, improvisational delivery, it fits neatly over the instrumental's thumping bass, hand claps, slightly fast-paced piano and keyboard riffs, and subtle, ghostly background vocals. As a whole, the session is a highly enjoyable showcase of WAMPTRONICA's sound, and a representation of the top quality music they've brought and hopefully will continue to bring to the New England underground dance music scene. And even if you're not familiar with that scene at all, there's still a lot to appreciate and enjoy on this record if you're a fan of genre-fusing house and electronic music. Until the next session, the session for WAMPTRONICA is definitely worth checking out, and I'm giving this one an 8 out of 10. And yeah, that's my review of WAMPTRONICA's The Session. So if you've checked it out, feel free to let me know in the comment section what were your thoughts on it. What were your favorite tracks, least favorite tracks, and so on and so forth. So until your next album review, take care. Peace.